Hello friends, today we are going to study concept of variation and change in demand. This is a very important concept, variation and change. Now let us understand this. Just focus over here. We have already studied in chapter demand. What have we exactly studied? Can I say there are various factors which influence demand? There are many factors which influence demand. Now what I'll do over here is I'll divide all those factors which affect demand. Just look at your screen over here. I am going to divide all those factors which affect demand into two parts. On one side, I'll take price, and on other side, I'll take all the other factors that affect demand. On one side, I'll take price, and on other side, I'll take all the other factors that affect demand. So what have I done? I've divided all the factors which affect demand into two types. एक साइड पे मैंने लिया है प्राइस और दूसरे साइड पे मैंने लिया है all other factors. All other factors includes income, because income also affects demand. Then it includes weather condition, fashion, utility, quality, advertisement, taste and preferences, and many other factors. We take it on the other side. Now अगर demand सिर्फ और सिर्फ प्राइस की वजह से बदलता है, we call it as variation. What do we call it as? Variation. और अगर डिमांड अदर फैक्टर्स की वजह से बदलता है, we call it as change. Call it as what? Change. So now guys, if I ask you to define variation, how will you define it? Very simple. We can say when price is the only factor influencing demand for a commodity, that's called as variation. What is it? When price is the only factor influencing demand, that's called as variation. Now how you define change? बहुत simple है. We can say when factors other than price, when factors other than price influence demand, then that's called as change. So guys, once more, what do you exactly mean by variation? When price is the only factor influencing demand for a commodity, then that's called as variation. If factors other than price influence demand for a commodity, that's called as change. I hope this is clear to all of you. Now let us go into more details of variation. Now students, as far as variation is concerned, we can say there are two possibilities under variation. The first possibility over here, look at your screen, it is called as extension, or we also call it as expansion. And the second possibility, contraction. So what's the first possibility? Extension. What is the second possibility? Contraction. सर अभी एक्सटेंशन कॉन्ट्रैक्शन क्या फंडा है? बहुत सिंपल है, ध्यान से समझो. एक्सटेंशन का मतलब होता है डिमांड बढ़ेगा, और डिमांड कब बढ़ेगा? जब प्राइस कम होगा. सो गाइस, कैन आई से एक्सटेंशन is because of fall in price. If I talk of contraction, contraction का मतलब है डिमांड कम होगा, और डिमांड कब कम होगा? जब प्राइस बढ़ेगा. So can I say contraction is because of rise in price? Extension is because of fall in price. Contraction is because of rise in price. So you know, when price falls, what happens to demand? It extends. And when price rises, what happens to demand? Contracts. I hope this is very clear to all of you. So once more, what is variation? When price is the only factor influencing demand. That's called as variation. Under variation, the first possibility is extension. Extension means rise in demand, and demand rises when price falls. Contraction is fall in demand. When price rises, demand falls. I hope this is very clear to you. Now, if I put this concept in a diagram, we get something like this. X-axis, Y-axis, origin. On X-axis, I'll take quantity demanded in terms of kgs. On Y-axis, I'll take price in terms of rupees. Now, I'll draw a demand curve. This is a demand curve. I'll call this demand curve as D. Now, just focus over here. Suppose price of a commodity is 10, and at price 10, suppose the quantity demanded is maybe 50 kgs. So at price 10, what is the quantity demanded? 50 kgs. Now what if price falls to 5? What will happen to demand? Extend. So at price 5, डिमांड एक्सटेंड्स. ध्यान से देखो आपके स्क्रीन पे लाल कलर का लाइन. डिमांड एक्सटेंड्स टू मे बी 70 kgs. So guys, at price 5 demand is 50 kgs. At price 10 demand is 50 kgs. At price 5 demand is 70 kgs. So can I say when price falls from 10 to 5, demand extends from 50 kgs to 70 kgs. Can I say this area over here is area of extension? Now look at the demand curve. Can I say pehle we were at point A, now we are at point B. In case of extension, can I say we are moving from A to B on the demand curve? Now this is how you plot extension. Now if we go to contraction, contraction happens when price rises. So suppose if the price rises to 15, what will happen to quantity demanded? Rise or fall? Fall. Extend or contract? Contract. Say, let's check out. At price 15, look at the demand. Suppose it falls to 40. So the moment price rises, supply contracts to 40. On the demand curve, we have this point C. So can I say we are moving from A to C on the demand curve? Now, if you look at this diagram over here, look at this very carefully, guys. On x-axis, we have plotted quantity demanded. On y-axis, we have plotted price. Initially, the price was 10 rupees and the quantity demanded was 50 kgs. As the price falls to 5, demand extends to 70 kgs. As the price rises to 15, demand contracts to 40 kgs. And on the demand curve, can I say in case of extension, we are moving from point A to point B, that is downward movement. And when demand contracts, we are moving from point A to point C, that is upward movement. So I hope the concept of extension and contraction is very, very, very clear to all of you. This is how it looks like. I hope ये सबको समझा. Good. Now let's go to the next concept over here, which is change. How do you define change? When factors other than price influence demand, that's called as change. Now guys, try to understand this. As far as change is concerned, under change there are two possibilities. Under change there are two possibilities. The first possibility is increase and the second possibility is decrease. Increase and decrease. Now how do you define increase? Is we can say if at a same price more is demanded. If at a same price more is demanded, that's called as increase. And if at a same price less is demanded, that's called as decrease. अब ये डायग्राम में और ज्यादा बेटर समझेगा आपको, so everyone just focus at the diagram now. The entire picture will be clear to all of you. X-axis, y-axis, origin. On y-axis I plot price, on x-axis I plot quantity demanded. So guys, now focus over here. Everyone look at the diagram. Suppose I say the price of umbrella is OP, and at price OP, suppose the quantity demanded of umbrella is say OQ. Quantity demanded is OQ at price OP. I get this point over here. I call this point as A, and this becomes our demand curve. So we call this as DD. So now the scenario is at a price of OP, the quantity demanded of umbrella over here is OQ. Now rainy season begins. Obviously बारिश गिरेगा तो more people will buy छाता, more people would buy an umbrella. What will happen to demand? Can I say अभी जो demand है उससे ज़्यादा demand होगा? So अभी demand कितना है? It's OQ. तो obviously बारिश गिरते ही demand बढ़ जाएगा. So now suppose the demand increases to OQ1. So can I say price has not changed, price is still the same, price is OP, but at the same price जो डिमांड पहले था OQ अब बढ़ के हो गया OQ1, तो कैन आई से डिमांड इतने से बढ़ चुका है, इतने से इंक्रीज हो चुका है. अब ध्यान से सुनना, पुराना प्राइस OP, पुराना क्वांटिटी OQ एंड उसका डिमांड कर्व DD, पुराना प्राइस OP, पुराना क्वांटिटी OQ, but we get a point over here P, and this becomes our new demand curve. I'll call this as D1, D1. So guys, can I say in case of increase the entire demand curve shifts to the right? The entire demand curve shifts to the right. अब देखो, जैसे ही बारिश गिरा डिमांड OQ से बढ़ के हो गया OQ1, प्राइस उतना ही है, डिमांड बढ़ गया. That is called as increase in demand. Now बारिश के बाद आया विंटर. अब विंटर में तो कोई छाता नहीं खरीदता, तो कैन आई से छाते का डिमांड से मे बी ड्रास्टिकली फॉल्स डाउन टू OQ2. सो नाउ प्राइस इज स्टिल द सेम OP, डिमांड कम हो गया टू OQ2. अभी कम होने का रीजन क्या है? अगेन इट्स वेदर कंडीशंस. सो कैन आई से डिमांड जो है वो इतने से कम हुआ है, आई वुड कॉल दैट एज डिक्रीज. So पुराना प्राइस OP, नया डिमांड OQ2, and this becomes our new demand curve. I'll call it as D2, D2, and I'll call this point as C. So can I say in this case demand decreases and the entire demand curve shifts to the left. I hope the concept is very clear, guys. So just focus on this diagram very carefully. Price of umbrella OP, initial demand OQ, बारिश गिरा, can I say now more people will demand छाता, demand increases to OQ1. Can I say at the same price more quantity is demanded? That's called as increase. अब अचानक आ गया विंटर, विंटर आते ही छाते का डिमांड ड्रास्टिकली फॉल्स, it decreases from OQ to OQ2, demand decreases. That's called as decrease in demand. In case of increase, the entire demand curve shifts to the right. In case of decrease, the entire demand curve shifts to the left. I hope you guys have understood the concept of variation, the concept of change, and their graphs. So with this we end the most important concept in the chapter demand, that is variation and change in